Hello again, and welcome to the Master's Voice. I am Celestial, and you are welcome to this channel. To old and new subscribers alike, you're very welcome. I have a prophecy that I have had for about a week. The prophecy is dated September the 22nd, and it was my intention that I would really take time aside to sit with this message, to go over the message, to look into the history of the message so that I could be able to correctly bring it out. Or should I say, correctly is not the right word. I wanted to be able to spend time with this message so that I could be able to go into all the richness of the historical nuance and everything else that is contained in the message. But today when I got home, I realized that this message was sitting on my heart. It was already my intention to at least try and use a 2-hour window to see if I could do a message. And this is a message that came to my heart. And so when I sat down, so many things were going wrong. My microphone has broken itself, and my phone fell out of the recording holder. It fell out. The microphone was attached. And so the cords that attached them got damaged. And I've tried to do a fix. It looks like it's working, but I guess I will only find out when I'm done. If anything, I will pass it through some software and try to enhance it if the volume is low. But it was just on my heart, and to sit with this message, that was my intention. And what the Lord said to me when I was trying to overcome all these various hurdles, which are just the different oppositions that we have to meet in daily life. We have to be able to keep going in daily life. We have to stop acting like problems are prophesied for those who are not saved, but not for us. The Lord just said to me, you don't need to get any scriptures for them. You don't need to get any scriptures for them except the main scripture. They should read their Bible. If they want to understand anything that you are saying, they should take what you are saying and go and search for it in the Bible and study it for themselves and on their own. And He has said this to me multiple times before, that I don't have to cut up the food and keep feeding it, because it's going to come to a time where, regardless of what I present, regardless of if I cut up the food or not and present it, to make it more easy for those who really don't know their Bible, those who are still new to the faith, to catch up, is going to come to a point where us here in America, and also everybody else around the world, we're really going to be faced with some realities that I know are going to have people devastated. We're going to be faced with some realities that are going to have people brokenhearted. We're going to be faced with some realities where a lot of people will lament. And I mean Book of Lamentations, lamenting. We read Lamentations, and not everybody is focused on the fact that the reason that it's called Lamentations is because they were seriously crying. And they were seriously crying because they had gone through a period of punishment that was so bad that they ended up eating their family members. They had gone through a period of chastisement, period of siege, a period of total abandonment by God. These concepts, Christians can't imagine a world where God will abandon them, like really leave them, like totally cause them to be standing on their own. And yet He's still God of the universe. He's still God of all flesh. He's still God of the so-called Christian church. A lot of people in the church, majority, almost everybody, cannot conceive of a time where the nearness of God is not capable of being perceived, where He will allow darkness to rule and to reign in the human realm, to the point that people will start to question if there ever was a God. Jesus went through that moment. Jesus went through that moment on the cross where He was crying out to the Lord and saying, Eli, Eli. He was asking, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Jesus went through His own period of feeling like the world for Him had become so dark and so bereft of the presence of God. And yet when you're trying to preach to modern people, they keep approaching extremely dangerous and high spiritual things with the average mindset that they use to watch their murder mystery shows and to pick up the phone and order dinner for 4 and things like that. And they keep telling themselves, no, I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm keeping up. But the reason I'm here to sit in front of America today, to talk about this prophecy from the 22nd of September 2025, is because last night, after I finished the prophecy, finally got it up and everything, it's 5:30 and I go to get some sleep. I was really tired. I was so tired that even my seeing was blurry. Everything was just looking so fuzzy and I was so tired, but I still took time to pray for about 30 minutes. I wanted to thank the Lord for what I knew had been a well done and a well delivered video. The Holy Spirit helped me so much because, as you know, there's like 200 billion clips on TikTok, but it seemed that every time I scrolled looking for what I wanted, it was right there. And not only was it right there, it was the exact clip that matched something that I had just spoken in my video. So if I was just speaking about Mr. Victory Yao, or Victor Yao, the man who strongly gives back remonstrations to defend China against any form of insults coming from Western interviewers, I would scroll and this man would just keep coming up. If I was looking for a particular technology, at least 2 clips in every category would follow one after another. And so God was making it very easy for me, but you still have to compile those things in order so that the flow makes sense. But I had to say thank you because I knew it was a well done video. How the Lord responded to me was to say, look. And when I looked, there seemed to be a far away building, a very, very far away building. And I can't tell you what the building is because, like I said, my eyes were, you know how it is when you're so sleepy that you're also seeing through your eyelashes, but then it also seems to be like just the tiredness has made everything blurry. But I was trying my best to see. So what I'm about to give you is basically a 2-in-1 prophecy. I'm going to give you this that God showed me last night, and then I'm going to do the prophecy from September 22nd. So this part will be labeled when the clock strikes 12. This part that I'm speaking right now, it will be called when the clock strikes 12. And that is dated September the 30th, 2025. So he said to me, look, Celestial, look. And I tried to look. I mean, I was really straining. The building was far away. It was in another country. But it had a clock on it. It had a clock on it that God said to me, can you see the grandfather clock? So this building had a big clock on it that Yah called a grandfather clock. And he said, can you see the grandfather clock? And I couldn't really see it. But I said, oh Lord, I'm trying to see it. And he said to me, the clock has only a few seconds left. The clock has only a few seconds left, Celestial, before it hits midnight. He said to me, the clock is about to strike midnight. And when the clock strikes midnight, America will have a massive 12-point earthquake that will utterly shake, rattle, and destroy her. And it will also send her tumbling headlong into the most dystopian and destroyed period of her existence. And so I was really trying to see, and I asked the Lord, how many seconds are left? How many seconds are left? Because I couldn't see. I could just see the shape, the merest shape of a big brown clock on the side of a building, a big, important building. It looked like I was looking into the plaza, and the building was not here in America. The building was in another country. And God said, look at the grandfather clock. And this clock was there, and it had, like, you know, the little, I don't know, there's always a thing on top of these clocks with a bell that will ring, you know, a big bell that will ring. And so I said, Lord, how many seconds exactly? Is it 5? Is it 10? And he said, no, it is only a few. And in the English language, a few, we mean 2 or 3. That's what we mean. When somebody says, can I have a few apples? Nobody's giving you 5 apples, because that is not a few. When you ask for a few apples, you will get 2 apples, which is a couple of apples, or 3. You won't usually get 4 or 5, because those we see are more than you expressed interest in. And so he said to me, just a few. It is not many, it is just a few. When the clock strikes 12, America will have her 12. She will have a massive 12-point earthquake, and that will topple her. And the Lord started telling me about how America is going to fall so bad that the people inside the United States are going to get the worst wake-up call that they have ever had. God says that people will be praying to him with snot. And I don't think that there's many Christians watching this broadcast, aside from those who have had a family member pass away, aside from those who have had a marriage end so unexpectedly that it feels like their internal organs are being ripped out of their bodies, except from those who have had maybe a baby pass away, a baby that they were, that they were having. It doesn't have to be one that you got after a long period where you couldn't conceive. It could be your first baby. You conceive easily, but then due to horrible circumstances that just don't favor you in life, you lose that baby. The way that woman would be crying to the Lord and asking the Lord why, and she's not thinking about makeup and looking good the way women always want to be presented their best. She's just crying and wailing with tears, with snot, with spit. That kind of praying is the kind of praying that God says American people will have. And he was strongly telling me that I should not use up my energy on telling people to listen, telling people to settle down, trying to correct people. He was telling me these things are absolutely useless on the audience that you are working with, because until they are chastised, they will never, ever, ever make the corrective measures that are necessary for them to be saved. So therefore, I'm letting the audience know, and you outside the country, you can go through the process of the chastisement if you want, or you can listen. They say that a word to the wise is sufficient. So from God's point of view, the audience that we are here in the United States is not an audience of wisdom. And I've explained many times that because there's a veil over the minds of the people. The veil is there, and the veil is so thick that even the people with the veil think they're doing great, which is just confusion eating its own tail. So there's a particular type of madness that is here working on the ground in America to make people think that they're okay, that they're fine, that they're not in any danger, that when they listen, they truly have apprehended and grabbed, and yet that thing is standing right next to them and saying, yes, that's right, you've got it. You've got it. And the only way to beat that thing is to literally lie prostrate on the ground and just say, Lord, let it be your will that I'm not deceived. Lord, let it be your will that deception will not find even a corner of my toe to make its home in. And so when the clock strikes 12, God says that America is going to have the greatest earthquake that she's ever had. And God says that America is going to fall so hard in the eyes of the international community that America will be capable of things. When I say things, I'm talking about departure from the norm. Everybody on earth does a certain thing. Once you are a country, okay, for instance, everybody knows that a country has to have a border, right? So let's say everybody has a border. America will be the one to say that she doesn't want to have a border anymore. I'm not saying that she's not going to have a border. I'm just giving it as an example to show you how God was trying to make me understand that the departure from the norm, the departure from what is normal, okay? A lot of people, when we talk about normal, people equate it with ordinary. When you talk about what is normal, then people think, no, I want to be special. I want to be different. I want to be a maverick. I want to be something more. And so a lot of people, especially the American mindset, strives to be that, strives to be special, strives to be different, strives to be above the norm. But when we're talking about the norm is actually something that is so precious in human existence, because the norm provides the benchmark from which you are not to sink. The norm never tells you that you can't rise and be a famous golfer and be a famous basketball star and be a world acclaimed author and be a talk show host that people recognize. Even the news anchors in America, are semi-celebrities. People see them and go, oh my goodness, that's Channel 10 News. And the guy just reads news for a living. But the familiarity of his face kind of lifts him up into celeb status. A lot of people even have used YouTube to leverage themselves up to becoming proper celebrities with the money, with the fame and everything like that. So the norm is here, and the norm's immense value to humanity is that it presents the floor. None of us wants to live below the ground, especially now that we have heard God explain and describe what under the ground looks like. So the norm presents the floor, the safety, the place where we all can get our start. And then as time and circumstance favor them all, some rise to the heights, some rise a little bit above, and then some just manage to keep the norm. But in human society, when the norm in human society is that when you're looking for a companion to marry and to have intercourse with, it will be another human that you prefer, no matter what they look like. And then we find out that you prefer your dog. You have fallen below the norm into this place, into this dungeon, into this darkness, into this place where as much as people will be watching the news story on you, the woman or the man that sleeps with a dog, and staring, and the news announcer herself will be trying to be professional and telling your story, and the cops will be there scratching their heads and saying, well, we've just never seen anything like it in our town. Everyone will be there trying to act normal as they seek for words to describe behavior that is not normal. And what God is saying about America is that America will become so highly abnormal that she would be like a radioactive object in the midst. She will be like something that people first try to understand, and then, if they're wise anyway, for the sake of their own sanity, they're going to stop trying to figure America out, because whatever they think is the lowest she can go, she will top it. So that is just the first thing that I saw. This clock. This is a real place, a tall place, a sort of like a brownish building, brickish, okay, with a grandfather clock on it, with a little tower at the top that gives room in a plaza. So it was like I was looking in the plaza, and then this tall building was there with the grandfather clock, and God was telling me, do you see that clock? It's just to 12, and when it strikes 12, America is going to have a 12-point earthquake, and on the heels of that, she's going to just go toppling over the brink into madness. And it's very important when the country you live in is toppling into madness that you make sure that you're not tied to that country, because the country is a very big thing. It's a very, very big thing. I just want you to think of a very big mountain that is balancing on the top of an even higher mountain, and that mountain is God, and the big mountain is about to push the small mountain down into the depths of Hades. Anybody who's still stuck to that mountain, oh, this is my Broncos team, oh, this is my celebrity, oh, this is my political party, oh, that's my president. Whoever is still wearing strings inside your guts, wrapped through your entrails, attached to that mountain very firmly, and you think that mountain is going to let you go without a fight. You think that you can just turn your back on Babylon and just use your little mouth in a comment section and say, I separate from Mystery Babylon. Meanwhile, she's seeded all through you, your whole 35 years of life, the way your brain works, the way your perspective works, the way your attitude works, the way everything about you works, because she is rank in you. Like people who don't use deodorant and then go out and play sport. And you think that all you can do is say, no, I reject Babylon. It's going to take prayer and fasting and actually asking God to cut the cord from that mountain, because when that mountain goes into free fall, you will be astonished, as I said in the video yesterday about China, how much mental breakdown for a fact you will see, how much sickness you will see onsetting on people out of nowhere, how much suicide you will see simply bursting out of the woodwork. Everybody will have a story about how well adjusted he seemed, how happy she seemed. She was making plans. They will say that's because madness settles like little birds. It settles just like little birds, just like in an Alfred Hitchcock movie. where they just come down silently and sit on the tops of the houses and the cars and the gyms and the food places and the bar mitzvahs and everywhere, the bridal showers and the weddings. And then he will shoot her 2 weeks on very violently, accusing her of an affair that she's not having. But he will become seized with the madness in his mind. And then that marriage will end up on, I think it's 48 Hours, or one of those programs where they dissect nonsensical deaths that are very explosive. So that is the thing that you ought to know. Then the main prophecy here for today is called the Psalm 83 War is coming. And like I said, I don't have any structured notes. I just have the prophecy in itself. And God says it is enough. If you want to know more about the historical part, which he was telling me is absolutely unnecessary to the main guts of the thing that needs to be said. And several things were put in my heart. Okay. And they're not written down, and they need to be said. The reason they need to be said is because we are coming to the end of all things. And for some reason, the Church of Jesus Christ is still here-minded. The Church of Jesus Christ is still very much earth-minded. And in some ways, in only some ways, it is understandable. You have to wake up in the morning and you still have to care about hygiene. You have to wake up in the morning and care about nourishment. You have to wake up in the morning and care about the different tasks that are assigned to you, the responsibilities that you have. It's very hard to be heaven-minded all the time when you have a boss who's angry because you didn't hit the metrics, or you have a boss who's giddy because you did have the metrics and he wants to talk future plans. And you know that your future plans include Lebanon in the next year, hopefully. You know that's where you're going. You know that you have to get out of America. But this man is here doting on you and talking future plans, promotion, integrating you with the team, getting Rajesh in here as the managing partner to talk promotion. And you can't have an outburst, and you can't look crazy, and you can't do things that are unprofessional, like that woman from whichever country who sent an email throughout the nations where her company, an actuarial company, I think that is in Southern Africa somewhere, that is called KPMG. It's just like Deloitte, and it's a global company. This woman was so convinced that the rapture was on the 23rd of September that she wrote a very long, informative email to all her co-workers. We're talking CEO, CFO, all the O's, Oreo. She wrote an email to every human and CC'd every other human and sent it out, telling them that the rapture was coming. So great was her love that she didn't want them to stay behind. I don't know the outcome of that, but just the action of that, I'm thinking you're not going to work after you don't leave, because you just can't do things like that. It's not normal. And so this prophecy has certain things that need to be said. And so the reason certain things need to be said is because the majority of people who say, and I won't go further than that, they say that they put their trust in God, and they say that God is their Savior, and they say that Jesus Christ is their Lord, are not heaven-minded enough to realize or recognize truly what the end days are going to require from them. And so because they really, really, really haven't invested stock in the knowledge of what types of things have to be endured, it is very important to bring those things out from time to time so that people can learn that it's almost like having two bank accounts, your spiritual bank account and your earthly bank account. If you do not start transferring your interests, your time, your energy from the earthly bank account into the spiritual bank account, not because you're necessarily going to die tomorrow, but because if you vest too much in the outcomes of elections and the president is doing this and this is doing that, you will find that all of a sudden, when something like an earthquake of a 12-point magnitude happens, you can't pull on all the comment sections that you've been having under the White House account and having an ongoing battle with the chief of staff on Twitter and tweeting back, and then they repost and then they diss you. And then the United States government is actually posting memes of how they're capturing people using ice, like they're posting Pokemon memes as they capture people and tear them away from their families. You got to collect them all. That's the tagline for Pokemon. So you're busy doing rah-rah this and rah-rah that on social media and everything, and you're scattered. You don't have a heavy base. You don't have a heavy enough base. You haven't eaten that heavy spiritual food that I said in the Dogs Are Running prophecy, that God gave me that food and the strength that entered me, the way I became so uplifted, the way that I became so fed, and I was able to run across the city without feeling tiredness, and also with being able to perceive much ahead, 2-3 streets ahead, what was going on with the traffic, able to just see that and know when I get there, that car is going to be moving at that exact spot, and I'm going to enter that spot and take a left, and things like that. So when you're not getting the spiritual food and you're not getting the spiritual downloads from God that you need, because you're busy here watching what the president is doing and watching what the ministers are doing and watching this and watching that, when a sudden impact comes, you will find that you don't have a seatbelt and you're going to go flying. And we're going to look at one of the major impacts that is coming to the world as a whole. An impact that God says, really, he said to me, Celestial, blood will be wasted upon the earth. Blood will be wasted upon this earth. The title of the prophecy that I'm now going to do is called the Psalm 83 War is Coming. The Psalm 83 War is coming September the 22nd. 2025. And if you remember, I did cover the Psalm 83 war back in 2024. And 2024 was the time that God was now ready to deal with the issue that we have an imposter situation upon the earth. This imposter situation is a situation that has always been taboo, and the enforcers of that taboo are, in direct order, the United States first, and then the nation of Israel, the political state of Israel that was established in 1948. Second, I repeat, the enforcers of the taboo are as follows. The United States is the first and the foremost enforcer of the unspoken taboo, the ban, the moratorium, the barrier, the gated community boom gates, against speaking against Israel. The second enforcer, who works in different methods than the first enforcer. Please listen, because everything that God laid on my heart, I'm going to say it, and if you're touched, you're just going to have to get an ice pack and lie down. The second enforcer is the nation of Israel itself. The two nations tend to differ in how they deal with the taboo. The first nation, the United States, operates with what we will call punitive measures and restrictions. If you talk about the political state of Israel, 1948 Israel, we'll be calling them, or Yehudim, which is a name they give themselves. I see people wondering, does Yehudim, do you not know that Yehudim is speaking about Judah? No, it's not speaking about the people of Judah, because they are called Judeans, or the tribe of Judah. Simply, they are not called Yehudim. Yehudim is a term that the Jewish state of Israel 1948 version have given themselves, and it literally means a term of solidarity. It is a term of brotherhood. It literally means, if you are a part of this group that is known as Yehudim, I will bear your burdens one to another. Whatever your problem is, from if the roof is leaking to if your son commits a murder and needs to get out of the country, I will shoulder that burden with you. Yehudim is a conclave. It is a shut, wired shut, bonded shut, sealed shut, gated community in which no others may enter but Yehudim. And that is because they are so fluid under the operation of that term that they literally see themselves as one bond. They may have their squabbles, they may have their problems, they may have their disagreements. It doesn't matter. If you are not a Jew, 1948 version, you do not belong in the group that is known as Yehudim. Yehudim literally means, it's not the literal definition, okay? It's a term, but if you want to define how it works, it literally means I will stand surety for him. He came to the hotel and he doesn't have money, I will pay his bill. He came to your house and he damaged something in the house, I will replace the item for you. That's what it means. It's a kind of mon frere, my brother type of thing. And so it only refers to them of the 1948 version. The way that America enforces breaking the taboo about Yehudim is through punitive measures and restrictions. So if you talk about Israel, such as I do here, by now, if I was a nationally syndicated show, you wouldn't be able to find my show at all. The toilet would be too shallow for where my show would be put. If this was a show and I was running the show, those of you who have ears, I know you can hear what I'm saying. If I had a national platform and I was getting big bucks from one of the political party to fund me, and I was talking very freely and running my mouth, and then I used my mouth to talk about Yehudim, the second type of enforcement would go into effect. It would not be punitive measures and restrictions. Punitive measures and restrictions are things like what happened to Kyrie Irving when he spoke about Yehudim, what happened to Nick Cannon when he spoke about Yehudim, what happened to Kanye West when he spoke about Yehudim, what has happened to all humans on this earth when they speak about Yehudim. When you speak about Yehudim, the first thing that will happen is, especially if you're in sport, the press themselves will be weaponized by their owners. The press in America is not free. First Amendment in that regard is a joke. It's an inside joke. We don't have a free press. We have pressmen who literally receive calls. And the next time that basketball player, the next time that artist, the next time that movie star, whoever it is, shows up to talk about whatever it is that they do for a living, you will find the press literally hounding them, trying to force them into an apology, trying to force them into an acknowledgement that the actual Jews, who are God's people, who are the descendants that came from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, are not people of color. They will harangue you, which means to pepper you with questions in your face. They will ask you very personal questions. They will attempt to demean you. They will be asking you all these questions at once. And it is a rare individual that is able to hold their peace and simply either ignore the questions or ask them, did you come here to do an ethnic biopic? Or did you come here to ask me about basketball? Because I don't know you well enough for you to get in my personal beliefs. You're not my therapist. So that is the way that it is done. When you speak about Yehudim 1948 version in America, you will lose everything that you have. You will lose your sponsorship if you have sponsors. You will lose your supporters if you have supporters. We're in a very rare time right now, so everybody seems to have a little bit of collective amnesia, and they're forgetting how it was even 2 years ago. If you talked about Yehudim, you could get crucified for it. Things only changed after October 7, 2023. That attack that has led to an almost 2-year-long war with Israel obviously trying to annihilate and genocide a people off the face of this earth. And it is only because of the young people in their Crocs and their long socks and their relentless advocacy. Their relentless advocacy and their shining display of humanity that has even given the nation of Palestine, or the people of Palestine, a shot at avoiding total annihilation at the hand of a very short and white-haired garden gnome. So, the way that America does things when you speak about 1948 version is that you will receive extreme punitive measures. I'm talking about you will be cooked in the press, because the press is the number one a la flambe, high heat frying, air frying, that is used in America traditionally to destroy people. The press has been weaponized by the American government for as long as most of you have been alive to vilify people, to villainize people. All you need are 2 puff pieces in the major libertarian papers, right? In the major leftist papers, and your reputation's done. Fox News doesn't even need to jump in and give you a 1-2 punch combo. Once the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal get ahead of you, your life, your career, your very existence can be reduced to the size of an unroasted peanut. You will have no life left. All your sponsors will leave you. Everybody who had signed you for a big deal will leave you. Even the people who love you will tend to back off, because the heat, the laser heat that comes upon a person in times past, and I'm literally talking about the space of 2 years. So I'm talking about 2022, early 2023, before the tide of this has been miraculously turned by our God. If you spoke, if you breathed anything against Israel, you would be canceled. And canceled is a mild word for what you would go through. Having business investors leave you is a lot more serious than getting canceled. Losing a hit show, such as what happened to Mr. Kimmel recently, but happened to Nick Cannon and also happened to Mr. West, and all the stuff that he lost, and the basketball player, all the stuff that they lost, is a very big deal. Cancellation is just a social pressure. But when that social pressure has the ability to change your friend circle, as in you get ostracized and rejected, when it has the pressure to touch your bottom line, as in your money starts looking really thin, because of what's coming out of the press, what's coming out of the mouth of people, it goes beyond mere canceling. And then on top of that, there are the relentless calls for endless apologies to the 1948 version. They never tire of a public apology. They never tire of people saying they're sorry, they're sorry, they're sorry. You have to come out on Instagram, Telegram, and Grammygram and write this long, insincere thing that we, the viewers, can see you don't mean. I didn't mean to say what I said. And this is a useful period of growth for me. I don't know who's writing these apologies. Either way, they don't come across as sincere. And that's because the person who is being forced to put them up on their social media doesn't really mean it. But then if you're getting kicked from the team, if you're getting cut from the team, if you're getting benched, if you're too good to let go, but they bench you for months, they don't let you play, they turn their biggest assets into just rocks that are sitting on the bench. It's a whole thing. Most of the teams that we see, all of the music that we see, the buildings that we're living in the streets that are outside, are owned by the 1948 version. And all you have to do is look at the leadership of the country going years back, and you will see that there is something afoot in the state of the USA. Not the state of Denmark, as they said in Hamlet, but the state of the USA, whereby it is as if the nation is frozen in resin, and the resin is called Israel. We are at the point where just a few, I think it might have been just 12 months ago or so, not even 12 months ago, at the beginning of this administration, the president was going after so many universities on a witch hunt, and he was doing it retroactively. So during Joe Biden's time, right, when the Free Palestine movement was at a height, many students, many campuses, many schools were protesting, and they were openly making loud their disregard, their frustration, their anger, and their severe rage, actually, towards the state of Israel as it currently exists. And so they were harassing Jewish students, and they were quickly saying, no, it's anti-Semitism and everything. And if you said anything about it, it was anti-Semitism and everything. But that was during, I guess, a more free era. We are now in the era of Handmaid's Tale / 1984 / Fahrenheit 451 / Brave New World. And in this era, retroactive punishment is a thing. And so the president started going after universities that had quelled their protests a year ago, and started telling them, oh no, you were harsh towards the Jews and everything like that. And this is not the sound actions of an autonomous executive. Americans, if you don't know this, especially the older ones, how bamboozled you are, how lied to you are, then all I can do to point you to something, a resource that can help you, is to point you towards the playlist on the Master's Voice that started on the 1st of January 2024, and it's called Who Are the True Jews of the Bible? It is one thing to be deceived, but it is another thing entirely to refuse that you have been deceived and then start getting angry over the fact that your deception is in its dismantling stage. Your deception is not only going to be dismantled, it's going to be dragged by the collar and walked like a dog. And as long as you have a TV and you've paid your subscription to the cable you favor, you are going to watch it happen. So it is very odd for you to be touched in the heart and angry, and all it proves is that you still have chains running all through your guts, attaching you to that mountain that God is about to kick off the side of his mountain. Any minute now. When that thing goes flying, you will go flying. You and your love for Israel will go flying. You and your tears for Israel, you and the scarves that you're always knitting for so-called Israeli children will go flying. All your thoughts, all your views, how you feel about this issue will go flying. You can cry bloody racist all you like. I'm going to go to bed, wake up in the morning, and continue with everything that is on my tablet, because I have to keep up with the mountain that is jet flying in front of me, whose name is Jesus Christ. And so America will punish you. Everything that I've been listening, these are punitive measures. That is how America will do. She will take your stuff and she will ruin your name, and she will make sure that she causes you to drop down to the level of a little girl or a boy who has been properly chastised against speaking against Yehudim. This even happens in academic circles. Your work will be mocked. Your work will be shunned. Your work will be ripped apart by paid Israeli people who look American but are not. A lot of people in the American government and in positions of power hold dual citizenship that they do not disclose. That means that they can speak to you with the American accent, absolutely no trace of an Israeli accent, absolutely no sign that they are not a natural born American. But just like the Russians, who are perfect sleeper cells here in the USA, there's a ton of people who are not full born Americans. They are actually Israelis holding American citizenship, and they never disclose this fact. There is a massive conflict of loyalties at the highest ranks of this nation, and have been there ever since Mr. Henry Ford was complaining about it in that book that he wrote, that I still need to download and read. However, it has always been denied, and yet these people own the banks, they own the means of productions. That means they own the factories, they own the manufacturing, they own the movies, they own the music, they own the people, they own the government, they own everything. The Navy, the Air Force, you name it, they're in it. The school system, they have their hands in it, dictating to this nation how it should be run. So actually, whenever you say that you are a patriot, you should actually say that I'm a proud Israeli patriot, because you are definitely not an American patriot, because America has been taken over from her innards decades before I was even breathing air, and the older generation did not know, was bamboozled by whoever it is that was leading you at that time. And now we come to now. God is concerned with the now. Therefore, if you are the older generation and you are living now, you are the ones who face the most resistance, and yet you are the ones who have the most to gain in terms of coming to the knowledge of the truth before you pass on. I was talking about being heavenly minded. How many people are heavenly minded enough to know that heaven cannot receive you if you are full of lies? Heaven is not a place for people who lie. You are still a liar if you believe and defend lies. You don't get to cry at the gates of heaven and then say, they fooled me, because God will say, but I made sure to flood the earth with the knowledge of me. And then you will say, where did you flood the earth with the knowledge of you? I was always watching for your coming, Jesus, and I passed on, and you didn't come during the time that I was there. And he was like, oh, you didn't recognize me in the form that I came? I came to you in the garb of truth. I am the truth. I'm not only the way, I'm not only the doorway to the Father, I'm not only the life, I'm also the truth. I came to you in the garb of truth. And then you were saying things like, is there any separate proof of these things? I know I've seen a few things here and there, but I mean, is there anything else? Isn't it odd that a conspiracy will be afoot? Dear people, hear me. Isn't it odd that a group of people, a confederacy, Psalm 83 calls them, a group of people will sit and plot years ago, 1930s, to create a false state and then declare to this punch-drunk world that is full of religious psychosis. And I'm saying that as a Christian. This world is filled with religious psychosis. Jesus Christ is the easiest thing to put on your personal preferences and then claim that you're a Christian. You can be a racist and put Jesus on and then say that you're a Christian, as if those two things can live together. You can be a separatist You don't believe that this country should be part of the world order. You believe that everything that the president is doing, that has always been studied in economic history as isolationist policy, every country that ever crashed and burned, especially when it hadn't figured out itself how it was going to come out into a glow up, every country that tried to practice isolationism, except for a few of them, crashed hard and fell on its face. If you don't plan it out, isolationism will destroy you. That's what the storybooks say. That's what the school books say, with a few rare examples like what Korea did. There are people who are so separatist that they want America to separate from the rest of the world, but then inside America, places like Texas and places like Florida believe that they should separate again. California has now joined that group. Even though of the three, they are the only one who will get their wish to separate. And so, if you are holding a lie in you, you are not walking in the light with Christ. Jesus Christ provides a light, and the provision of his light is not for you to jump on the lit highway and start walking in your personal beliefs and preferences. That's not what the light of Christ is for. The light of Christ that comes through the word is given to us to shine into us, to show us all the places where we are harboring darkness, and we need to be separated from the darkness so that we can enter into the marvelous light that is Jesus Christ. The light of Christ is not for you to get in and say, oh, I'm so glad that I made it in, and now I can just be walking as a Democrat, and now I can just be walking as a Republican, and now I can just be walking as a baddie. Nothing else is required of me. I can just be walking as a sexual immoral because you know what? I'm in the light. The light of Jesus Christ is actually a heat lamp. The longer you walk on the path, it's supposed to be burning everything that is unwanted out of you, but that is not what is happening. And in the area of politics, to a politics drunk nation, this is very dangerous. And so now that you've heard what America will do, America will sue you. Okay, America will take away your academic credentials if you speak of Yehudim in any way that was considered 2 short years ago. Just 2. The world has changed. 2 short years ago, you would be called an anti-Semite if you sat on any medium and spoke the way I am speaking. And you can see that the current administration is working very hard to take us back to those times. Very hard, by telling people, report it if you hear anyone saying anything bad about Israel, so we can find them and dox them and do all the things that we do. This is punitive measures and restrictions. You can't have this, you can't have that, we'll take away your show. The way that Israel deals with people who break taboo is to shoot them and bomb them. They don't have time to go back and forth with public apologies. That's the reason that Benjamin Netanyahu always makes so much noise. He makes the noise that he makes when he can see that the children are dragging him and his cronies for filth on social media. That's the reason that America, in case you've been wondering, isn't it a little strange for gray-haired old people who can't work without their bifocals to be so obsessed with the TikTok app? The reason they're obsessed with it is that because the flow of conversation concerning Israel on that app is nothing short of liquid lava, sulfuric acid. Flow. Those children show no mercy. They go after the brands, they go after the models, and on every single video holding both American stars and American elite accountable and Israeli elite, Gen Z is merciless. And the thing is that if this was any other time period in history, Israel wouldn't care what Gen Z is doing. But social media is now the means by which presidents are hanging on to helicopters and running away for dear life, being captured by the news media. The action of Gen Z is making today's news. The action of Gen Z in Kenya, in Nepal, is toppling governments. And that means that the government, gray-haired though they may be, are being forced to acknowledge the power of the media that they cannot manipulate because it operates through the cell phone in our hands. That's why America seems obsessed with buying TikTok, because America can't get a night's sleep without the garden gnome on the phone. Have you done it yet? Make sure you do it, because we need to get access to it and infiltrate it and spy on everyone and then go to their house and shoot them. That is the way that Israel deals with things. America is the first step of dealing with you, but sometimes America has absolutely no idea that the second step is in operation, that those people regularly infiltrate the country and do all kinds of things, like bring tall trees down to the ground, like bring tall towers down to the ground, and then the garden gnome will sit on camera and say something like, it's very good. It's very good for Israel. That is how they deal with things. Those people didn't train Mossad to hang around and file their nails. They enter into this country. It's on documented tape that on the day it happened, a woman, the towers fell. There was a woman in a high rise, and she was watching the towers burn, and she was looking through binoculars, and she looked upon a van that had 5 men rejoicing and dancing joyfully around the van. And she called it in. Their dancing was interrupted when NYPD came and caught them. The problem is who they were. 5 Israeli operatives who, at the end of a fandangle dance dangle, were quietly sent home. The American people were not told why 5 unidentified men who were linked into spying were dancing around pretty close to where these events occurred, celebrating. That's information that wasn't necessary, because it was very, very chop hasty that we had to see those 9 passports that refused to burn in the same fire that melted steel. This is a nation of false flags. America will do the false flags, but sometimes even America is shocked at the false flags that get done with one hand outside the country and with the sleeper agents who have dual citizenship right here in the country. They're running the money, they're running the feds, they're running the banks, they're running your so-called golden 2.0 term. And you're just a sitting duck in the midst. People who talk about this place eat bullets on live TV. And so, the Psalm 83 war is coming September the 22nd, 2025. And as I lay down to sleep, the Spirit of the Lord began to speak to me, walking through his vast library of the men that he used to know and love. God really loves the sons of antiquity. He loves to talk about them, and there's a tone in his voice when he talks about them. He's very poetic when he talks about them, even the bad ones, even the ones that did things that he made sure they were punished for. God loves the sons of antiquity. God does love the men who were in the Bible. And so I lay down very tired, and I began to hear God talking, almost as if he was narrating the beginning of a movie or a story. The sons of Jacob are these: Reuben, who slept in his father's bed, and so destroyed all his favor and heritage with Israel. Simeon, who shed a man's blood in anger, and so weakened his strength, as only murderers do. Levi shed blood with his brother, and the 2 of them are like wild jackals on the surface of the earth. But Yah has forgiven his transgressions, in order that he will once more have priests unto himself. Judah is the pride of Israel, the lion's share of the whole. But the same pride has run rampant in him, and he will pay the highest cost if he does not repent of his sins. Dan has been put out of the congregation. His brothers have replaced him. He will not get a portion in Israel, but he can stay within the walls. In parentheses, God says he will not put Dan out in the desert. He can stay within the walls. The rest of the sons of Israel are to take your position. If you do not believe Yah, you will not be established. If you do not hear the words of wisdom by the mouth of his prophet, You will not prosper. The Psalm 83 war is coming, and all Israel must take their position. The ones who have stolen identity shall be brought low into the valley, and their reckoning will meet them there. America will go tumbling into war by design, as has been planned for her from the beginning. She will be baited into a great war, and her decline and her struggles will begin from there. Make way for the Lord of hosts. Make way for the King of Israel. Drive away the fake ones, the imposters, Yehudim from the West Bank area. It does not belong to them. They will be driven far away, and in revenge will sow bombs on the soil so as to prevent anyone else from taking it. Those people will be driven away from my land. It is not theirs. They shall not have it. I have forgiven the sons of Israel, all 12, but they will need to come into formation to prepare and protect themselves. Blood will be wasted in this war. Senseless death of the type you would never wish to see in your life. Gratuitous violence as Israel seeds the strip with landmines to prevent anyone else from having it. But it will be useless to them. It is going to be a vicious war because each side will be fighting to establish dominance and not to be seen as weak. But it will be the ones caught in the middle who will suffer the most loss. And the Lord gave me this one line of, I think it's Psalm 121, that says, if it had not been for the Lord who was on our side, let Israel now say, if it had not been for the Lord who was on our side, then men would have eaten us up. And so you hear at the beginning of the prophecy that God is remembering sometimes the missteps of the sons of Israel. Reuben, the first boy, slept with his father's concubine. I think he slept with Bilhah and somebody else. And Israel, his father, Jacob, was so angry that was how Reuben lost his inheritance. That is how Judah actually came to have the firstborn position in Israel, is because Reuben greatly shamed himself by dishonoring his father so bad, because everybody knows you are never supposed to uncover your father's bed. You are never supposed to sleep with your mother. If your mother passes away and your father takes a second wife, you are never supposed to sleep with the second wife. You are never supposed to sleep with any of your father's sisters. You have uncovered your father's nakedness. And so Reuben did that. And he lost the right to the firstborn inheritance, and it fell to Judah. Simeon and Levi were angry. They went into the town of Shechem because their sister Dinah was raped by a man named Shechem. Shechem saw her and he fell in love with her, and he raped her, as these men tended to do in those days. Just see, and their passion is high, and they don't keep themselves, despite the fact that all these societies had laws against them. Israel's laws being the strongest against such things, protecting their virgins and everything like that. And so he raped the girl, and when she went home and told her brothers, the father was so much in fury, actually, that she told her dad, and her dad waited until the boys came home and told them when they came in from the field. And these two were like, okay. So both of them, God is talking about Simeon that shed a man's blood in anger. And he said that when he murdered a person in anger, in hot blood, okay, his strength was weakened in the way that only a murderer can lose strength. And that is because God says that the life is in the blood. A lot of people who allow their tempers to run high until they commit murder don't know that it's only a symbolic sign of cutting your life short when you get caught and put in jail, because you have also cut another person's life short. And God is basically giving us an insight here that when you shed human blood, okay, in rage and anger, so it's not self-defense, but you shed human blood in rage and anger for revenge or any of those other purposes, you literally, if your life was an hourglass, You literally cause a widening of the hourglass for your time to start running through very, very much faster, because you just did the same to somebody else. And then Levi is the priesthood, okay? He would later go on to be the spiritual class. And God says that yet he was a blood shedder, okay? He shed blood with his brother, and he said that they have the appearance like wild jackals on the earth. So hot-tempered, predatory, pretty strong. A jackal is not as big as a hyena. A jackal is somewhere between, I don't know, a wild dog, a dingo, something like that. But still, they're very crafty animals. They're good fighters, especially when they're cornered. And so they're nothing to be taken lightly. But God says that that is what they were like. But he says that for the sake that he will still have priests on the earth, he's covered over the transgression of these priests, the Levites. And then he also says Judah is the pride of Israel. Whenever God is talking, it's almost like I see a big diamond, a big diamond, like very big diamond that God is talking about. And he says he's the lion's share of the whole. And the scripture does talk about lion, Judah, very much in terms of a lion, that he is the lion's whelp, you know, and that usually when he is eaten, he wants to lie down. But towards the end times, the Bible does say that the tribe of Judah will stand up and begin roaring. And that is what is frustrating a lot of people here in America. It's not as frustrating when you see Judah roaring around the world where they are. There's Judah in Africa, there's Judah in so many other places around the world. It's infuriating here because the thing is, there's no lions tolerated here inside the cage of the United States. The only role for Judah to continue holding in the eyes of those who own and run the United States is the role of the dog that he was told that he is. But now there are spiritual metrics afoot. The Lord is stirring up the hearts of all the people. Some people's hearts are being stirred up and they're being told it's time to return to the land of your birth. That is why you see Chinese people leaving. That is why you see German people leaving, is because everybody can read the writing on the wall of Mystery Babylon, which is Mene, Mene, go now. So some people's hearts are being stirred up and they don't even understand that it's a spiritual process that is stirring them up to get up and to leave this land, so that their blood will not be what? So that their blood will not be wasted. For I have prophesied here for many years that in addition to America's own civil war, America will enter into a series of wars and conflicts. This will not be a nation of rest. This will be a nation where it's not recommended for you to have heart trouble, palpitations, or a pacemaker, because every time you put the news on, you will find America and somebody going at it until you wonder if nukes are going to fly. And that is not good for older people. It's not good for younger people. It's not good for children. It's not good for anyone to live under the constant specter of war. I ask you and plead with you, people of the United States, why are so many people in this country, millions and millions of America, so covered over with the spirit of madness and darkness that the government changed the Ministry of Defense, or the Department of Defense, to the Department of War, and the people think it's normal. The people think it's okay. The people are not questioning it. The media has seamlessly shifted to start calling Mr. Hegseth the Secretary of War. People, is this a movie? Is this a movie from the 1100s? Is this maybe a remake of 1984? How is it normalized in the hearts of people that they do not understand what war is? Do you know what it is when your country makes an open declaration that its Defense Department is now renamed to war? It is signaling, not to you, but to every nation outside, that America is now closed for negotiation, that America only has one word, one modus operandi, and one motive burning in her heart, and that is war. Trade war, economic war, fashion war, Birkin war, missile war. You pick the war. That's all she knows. That's all she knows. It's no more negotiation. It's no more conversation. It's no more talking. It's no more back and forth. It's no more room That kind of environment is why everybody's fingers are next to their 85%, 95% enriched nuclear toys. And America is not the only one with nuclear toys. America's rhetoric has gotten so hot that Vladimir Putin is on record several times as having said, if NATO does A, B, C, Russia is going to interpret that as an act of war. That's because Mr. Putin speaks seamless English. So does Mr. Jinping. They just don't want to. It's power move to speak in your language and force the interpreter to share your thoughts however best the interpreter can do it when you can speak directly. They don't condescend to do that. Both of those men speak English because it is imperative for statesmen from the two countries they come from to learn and master the English language, because the English language is the language of power. It is the language that all the talks are held in. Nobody ever holds talks at the United Nations in whatever they speak in Uruguay. It is the language of negotiation. It's the language that rules the world. It is the language of power. To signal to the world that you have no more conversation, you have no more negotiation. You can't come to the table anymore. It is very, 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 very dangerous for us as a domestic population. The domestic population of the USA should be the last people clapping and cheering when the government is signaling that it's going into active, barking, hunting, transformer stage. It's costly to fight France. It's costly to fight Germany. It's costly to fight Iran. It's costly to fight the people outside. It costs nothing to fight you. It costs absolutely not a dime to fight you. In fact, they're going to fight you off of your money. It's your taxpayer money. 2025 funds are in, and 2026 funds are going to come right off our back. Skin, hair, and bone. They're fighting us with our own money. And the people in the country are cheering for it and saying, go President Trump, go Department of War. Because they literally think that the wild dog that I saw all the way back when Obama was president, they think that that dog is only for ripping off the arms of foreigners. But we're all going to be armless in this country unless the Most High intervenes. And nobody more than the nation of Israel. When I made the video and I was talking about how there was a video that I made where I was talking about how God was showing me that discrimination is going to come back for black and brown people. They're going to not hide to you. They're not going to lie to you like they do now when they're sectioning off the good jobs and telling you that you don't qualify, make you do the interview until you get to the 5th level and you're there with someone who isn't even presenting himself. They have the two of you in an open conversation, and he's not even presenting himself as well as you do. And then they contact you and they tell you, you know what, you were such a compelling candidate. That was just a Punch and Judy show to show that the nephew of the guy was going to get the job anyway, but they had to go through the performance. But they're not going to go through this long rigmarole. This is what I was telling you based on what the Lord has made me to understand, that you'll be told to your face, no, we don't hire black here, and there's going to be no law in place. So I was saying, I don't know how they're going to do it. I just know that they're going to do it. And the Lord said to me immediately, I got off the video, when I was doing other things, he was saying to me conversationally, oh, you didn't understand. All the things that I was telling you, they are going to be done legally. The government is going to actually roll back every single protection that was used as an advancement to protect the rights of minorities in this country. You don't need to legislate new laws to say we're going to be racist now. You only need to repeal the protections, and then you will have the same situation that existed here prior to the protections. And guess what? The situation that existed in the pre-civil rights, pre-emancipation proclamation era of the United States was legal. It was lawful. It was the law. All they need to do is wind time back a little bit, and they'll get to it. Psalm 83 Is a psalm where the psalmist is calling out and say, God, there is a plot against our lives, our very lives, our God. Hear our prayer, for they have formed a confederacy about us, and they do plot upon our souls. Give ear to our prayer. That's what Psalm 83 is about. The irony of Psalm 83, which I already covered in a video from last year, is that Yah says that the Psalm 83 war is going to go in a split way. And that's what he was saying to me today before I made the video. He said the Psalm 83 war, the Psalm, okay, is the just property of the true people of Israel. It is their just property. It is their righteous property. It is their biblical psalm, speaking of a time that already came past where they were calling out to God to help them against a certain confederation of nations, and a certain confederation of nations would rise against them in the end times to try and annihilate them and remove them from the surface of the earth. It is their right to cry out that psalm to God. And indeed, I strongly warn those who are listening, who are of true Israel, that you need to begin praying this now, because the format it will take, some of it will be in the United States, homegrown aggression that will have as its final objective that you're not breathing anymore. And I've seen many people, this is not our parents, we're not our parents, I have a pew pew. Can you add? I'm asking with utmost politeness, can you do math? Because if every person in this nation was to go and get a weapon, which I will not go and get a weapon, so you will not be able to get all of us weaponized. If every single person like me went and got a weapon, can you add? Can you do math? At 8% or 13%, 10%, whatever tiny percent, do you think that you can prevail against the majority? This is why we cannot get the help of God, because the help of the street is still in us. I will do self-help. I will help myself. I will go to the gun range. Nobody's stopping you from doing that, because you know when it comes down to an altercation in your family and your 16-year-old daughter is there and you're not trying to get her jumped by 3 men, it will definitely come down to whatever wisdom you can avail yourself of at that time. But I'm just speaking as a collective. What makes people not understand that the reason Psalm 83 is what it is because more seasoned weapon wielding Israelites than you, they were good at math. There's like 10 nations that they added up that they said are coming to kill us. You think they didn't know how to fight? Have you touched the Old Testament at all? Do you think that these were men who didn't know how to fight? These are men who didn't know how to defend. These are men who didn't know how to go in formation and do battle. Men that have mighty victories to their name in the past are now crying out to God. Rightly so, because at least they are humble enough to see that the enemy is too much for them. And then you're sitting on social media making videos and talking about we're not our ancestors. It's because it's a lot of bravado until a cross is burning on your front lawn and you realize that it's you and your brother in the house against Leroy and 10 people, and that they've been watching you guys for 6 weeks and you didn't know because you were coming home tired from work every day and you just weren't paying attention. I just saw a trucker breathing out his nose from North Carolina. They are killing and hanging people in North Carolina for fun. Several truckers have lost their lives. And he was saying that because he had heard that this thing was happening, when he came to an area that looked particularly deserted, he just decided not to stop the truck too much. He said he was timing it, watching the light as he was approaching the stop, so that he would not have to come to a complete stop, because he'd been hearing some things about that town. And he said that as he was rolling to an almost not quite stop, literally a person lunged on the side of the truck, hoping that the door was open, because that was the modus operandi of how they were getting their midnight fun in that town. What are you thinking? Can you do math? Can 1 fight 10? Can 10 fight 100? Have you looked around you lately? God says that Israel is to take their position. If you ask me, that position is the downward position of prayer. Jesus himself says, I will not come to you until you cry. So he didn't say, I will not come to you until you express yourself and say, oh, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. Jesus, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. He says, until you cry. That is a loud, I've lost 2 sons and I can't afford to lose 1 more. That is a loud, my husband is Caucasian and they took him from me. I barely managed to escape with my life. He did what he had to do as a man and told me to run with our baby, and I was able to, but they got him and now I can't find him. I already told you that they will come after you, the Lovings. And to my credit, I said it. And then I see a man who's so disillusioned by the church because he grew up in the church, white guy, and he's denouncing Christian nationalism on TikTok, walking people through the mind control of thinking that your obsession with politics is something that Jesus delights in. He does not. He's walking people through that, and he was saying, I just saw this thing today or last night. He was saying, I'm telling you, I feel it in my core. Interracial marriage is next. And I'm thinking, but I said that. I said that. You that wants to blend, you that wants to swirl, even you that doesn't want to have an interracial marriage, you that's just cool with your black best friend, you that's just cool with your Mexican neighbor that you've been living next to in peace and you guys go fishing now and then, and you that's just civil, you that didn't need the law to be civil, you that didn't need them to legislate anything to be civil, they will count you as the primary enemy. The first way that Psalm 83 is going to work is that it is the ancestral property of those who had better get praying, because all the harassment, I'm telling you, all the harassment, all the being spit on, everything that you constantly claim were not our ancestors, you're going to find out why they died brokenhearted, unless you're either going to live on the moon in another country. If you're staying here, this is what Yah says is coming. But he says the ironic twist to Psalm 83 is that the Yehudim stole the identities of the true Jews. And he says, you steal another man's blessings, you will also inherit another man's problems. And so what is coming to the Yehudim, the false Jews in the state of Israel, is that they will find themselves surrounded by the confederacy of nations. And God has already revealed in the Jew prophecies of last year, 2024, that their punishment will be to be completely surrounded by the Arabs. That the Arabs are going to be the one who form the confederacy against them. That the Arabs are going to be the one who give them a mighty taste of everything that they have been giving the Palestinians for 60 plus years. And so God says that if you believe his word, he will establish you. This is 2 Chronicles 20:20. If you believe the Lord, you will be established. If you believe his prophet, you will prosper. He says, if you do not believe the word of the Lord, and this is not only to Israel, this is anyone who will always want to come after I have done my best effort and poured out of the Spirit, not just my thoughts. But what does this mean? Why do you say that? People come in and you don't actually know how disrespectful your side commentary and snide commentary is. So for the last kerfuffling years of human existence, Jesus has been presented to us one way. As I said long ago, he was first presented as a blonde man, and then finally when people woke up and thought, but it's the Middle East, then there was a quick rehashing of the image to give him darker hair. So he now has dark brown hair, dark brown eyes, to make it more acceptable. They're even starting to choose more swarthy complexion actors, but still will not move into the real presentation of what the Lord looks like. So now that the truth is coming out, all of a sudden people who were happy with the image on file for hundreds of years will now say, but what does it really matter? It's the love of the Lord. It's the love of the Lord and the love of the truth. And I'm sure that there's space in your heart, Debbie, for both. I'm sure that there's space in your heart and your mind to be able to accept both truths, not just one. You can accept the truth of the Lord's true origin. You can accept the truth of who the Bible is talking about in places like Isaiah 11 and in places like I think it's Isaiah 60. You can accept that, and you can also accept that the Lord is loving and that the truth of salvation is for everyone. Salvation has nothing to do with end times prophecy. There are plenty of people in this world of all backgrounds, all belief systems, who will come into the body of Christ and receive salvation, which is a free gift for all. These are different matters that the Lord is speaking. He is speaking about the fulfillment of things that he has set in his book long before you wanted to protest, Matthias. 2 things can be true at once. 5 things can be true at once. Jesus is not who you think he is. Jesus loves everybody, and he shed his blood so that all can come in. The Bible has been taught as a lie, making the people who are the people of the book subjugated. There's a reason that people in this country didn't want black people to learn how to read. Reading gives you access to the truth. Reading makes you think. Reading makes you question. But why is it like this? And that's why it was forbidden, to create an almost insurmountable gap between the conqueror and the conquered. These things need to be righted by God. You're not going to swat away God's hand because you are uncomfortable. I said that everybody has to learn to live with discomfort. Discomfort is not a sin. Discomfort is not a crime. You won't melt if you're not comfortable. And so, God says that people should begin to downsize. Get ready to survive on less. Get ready to get rid of the things and let go of the things that you don't need. Things that you were saving because you thought, oh, I might need them. I might keep them for another season. He says, no, it's time to divest. It's time to divest. What you have that you know can make money and you know you're never going to get to it, sell it. Put it on some website. Sell it. Get rid of it. Bless someone else with it if you can afford to. And just basically slim down, he's saying, because he's coming. Make way for the Lord of hosts. God is very big. This world is going to really fry like pig fat. This world and the people in it are going to fry like pig fat. They're going to have such tantrums. They're going to be so angry because God is very, very big, and he's going to cook all that pig fat and wash it off so that there can be enough space for him to come by his spirit and inhabit this world and bring about his will and the things that he's interested in. And so he says, make way for the Lord of hosts, make way for the King of Israel, and drive away the fake ones, the imposters. Drive them away from the West Bank area because it's not theirs. It doesn't belong to them. And this is about the 3rd or the 4th time that God has told me that when the Jews are getting beaten, when they're getting beaten in this war, they're going to put landmines in the Gaza Strip. He says, as one last petty activity, because they don't want anyone else to have it. And I've always wondered, if you successfully sow landmines, who can ever have that place? But here in this prophecy, God says, they will be driven away from my land. It is not theirs. They shall not have it. And where else did he say? He says, yes, they will. Gratuitous violence will be seen as Israel seeds the strip with landmines to prevent anyone else from having it. But then he says it will be useless to them. So perhaps the Lord will do something supernatural to deactivate them, or just to, I don't know what he will do, but he's God and there's no limitation on what he can do. It is just necessary that people know that certain things are not the easiest to talk about. And if you know that in this climate, you're not one who will actually sit with your face and your identity on the internet to say certain things because you lack the courage, then I really strongly think that a lot more people could have respect that they totally lack when they come here. You know you can't do it, but then you can't have respect when you come here. And it's really ironic to me, and that is all I will say about that. And so the prophecies that you have heard together are when the clock strikes 12, September the 30th, 2025, and this one, the Psalm 83 war is coming. God is talking about a time of gratuitous violence. If you don't know what gratuitous violence is slitting a woman's belly when she has a pregnancy in it just to look at her face. It's cutting open a pregnancy. It's gang raping a person and then laughing and filming it on the phone and then sending it throughout the barracks and even putting it online if we'll still have internet or whatever. Gratuitous violence means violence just for the sake of violence. It's cutting off a hand, it's cutting off a foot, it's cutting off a finger, it's cutting off lips. This is the people to whom God has sent me to talk about things that they can't conceive. And I've said it year after year after year. And you know what? The response of the inside does not match the things that are coming out of my mouth. The American public lacks utterly the right response to the kind of things that are coming out of my mouth. And so I too will rest. You're resting. I also will rest. God bless you. I am Celestial. This is the Master's Voice. You've heard from September 22nd, 2025 and from September the 30th, 2025, 2 messages. The Psalm 83 war is coming. Thus says the Lord. God bless you, and until I see you again, goodbye.